Welcome back to Speak Without Fear. Imagine boarding a train that should take only 3 hours to reach home. You sit by the window, watch the city lights disappear, and think about the people waiting for you. But when the train finally stops, you discover that 25 years have passed. Today's original story is about a journey that changed one man's life forever. Sit back, relax, and improve your English by listening to this story. Daniel was 30 years old and had spent the last 5 years working in another city. His job paid well, but it also kept him away from the people he loved most. One Friday evening, he finally decided it was time to go home. He packed a small bag, bought a train ticket, and arrived at the station just before 9 o'clock. The train looked old, but it was clean and quiet. As Daniel found his seat beside the window, he smiled. In just a few hours, he would see his parents again. As the train slowly began moving, an elderly man walked into the carriage and sat beside him. The old man had kind eyes and a gentle smile. After a few minutes of silence, he looked at Daniel and asked, "Are you going home, or are you simply going back?" Daniel laughed softly and replied, "Aren't they the same thing?" The old man smiled but said nothing more. The journey continued peacefully until Daniel noticed something unusual. He checked his watch. It was 11:47 p.m. A few minutes later, he looked again. The time had not changed. Thinking his watch had stopped, he looked at the clock above the train door. It also showed 11:47 p.m. Other passengers began checking their phones, but there was no signal anywhere. Some people laughed, saying it was probably because the train was passing through the mountains. However, an hour later, nothing had changed. The clocks still showed the same time, and the train continued moving through complete darkness. Daniel looked out of the window and suddenly recognized a small railway station. The train passed it without stopping. About 20 minutes later, he looked outside again and was shocked. The same station appeared once more. The same broken bench, the same old sign, even the same stray dog sleeping near the platform. Daniel rubbed his eyes, convinced he was imagining things, but other passengers noticed it too. Fear slowly spread through the carriage. Some people tried opening the train doors, but they remained locked. Others searched for the conductor, but every carriage was completely empty. It was as if the train was moving by itself. Hours seemed to pass. Yet nothing changed. The clocks remained frozen. Outside, the darkness never ended. The elderly man remained calm, quietly looking through the window. Daniel finally asked him, "Do you know what's happening?" The old man smiled gently and answered, "Sometimes life keeps moving while people refuse to let go." Daniel didn't understand those words, but they stayed in his mind. Just before sunrise, the train finally began to slow down. Everyone stood up, relieved that the journey was over. The doors opened, and the passengers hurried onto the platform. Daniel stepped outside and looked around. The station looked familiar, yet strangely different. The buildings were newer, the streets were wider, and many of the old shops had disappeared. Confused, Daniel walked toward a newspaper stand. A newspaper lay on the counter. He picked it up and looked at the date. His hands began to shake. It was 25 years later. Daniel could hardly breathe. He ran to the street where he had grown up, but his childhood home no longer existed. A modern apartment building stood in its place. An elderly neighbor recognized his face and stared at him in disbelief. With tears in her eyes, she whispered, "Daniel, everyone believed you disappeared 25 years ago." She told him that his parents had waited for years, hoping he would return. They never stopped believing he was alive, but time moved on, and eventually they passed away, still wondering what had happened to their son. Daniel felt his heart break. He had boarded a train, expecting to arrive home in a few hours, yet he had lost 25 years in a single night. As he slowly walked back toward the station, he searched for the elderly man who had sat beside him. The platform was empty. Daniel asked the station master if anyone else had arrived with him. The station master looked confused and replied, "There was no old man on that train. You were sitting alone." Daniel stood silently as the morning sun rose over the town. He finally understood the question the old man had asked at the beginning of the journey. Home was never just a building or a street. Home was the people who filled those places with love. Once they were gone, no train in the world could ever take him back to the life he had lost. Instead of leaving the town again, Daniel decided to stay. He bought a small house nearby, planted the same flowers his mother loved, and spent every weekend helping children at the local school. He could not change the past, but he could make sure that someone else's future became brighter. Every evening, as another train passed through the station, Daniel smiled quietly. He no longer wished to travel back in time. He had finally learned that the greatest journey in life is not returning to yesterday, but finding the courage to move. Some journeys change your destination. Others change your heart. The train never really took Daniel home. Instead, it taught him that home is not a place you can travel to. It is the love you carry with you wherever you go. Forward. Thank you for listening. Practice your English by listening to this story every day. If you enjoyed today's original story, subscribe to Speak Without Fear and join us for another unforgettable English story.